Welcome back to TEYARA SMP, a TNP Limitless 7 series, and you can see we are back here in the creative world where I've started working on this week's contraption that I'm hoping I'll be able to finish this week as well and get it on the server. But as we did some work on the sawmill, specifically with the storage, you may recall the ender drawers that I alluded to having a future project down the road that we would be hooking them up to. This is part of it. So what I wanted to do was make a tree harvester kind of thing. I wanted at least one in Create, and the rest of them are just going to be Botany pots, because that's, like, I don't want to be too performance heavy on the server, and the Botany pots are definitely going to help with that, but I still wanted to plan out the Create mechanism and the general layout for the mechanism leading up to the storage. And so there's going to be some building in survival where we're going to plan out the actual storage, but I wanted to get the mechanism right, and in order to do that, we need to examine the types of trees that we are using, and those are, we are using the 3 different types of maple, which is to say red, orange, and green, I believe, and then I also want to do harvest birch. Now the thing is, I don't just want to saw them, I also want these leaves, because I can foresee myself using these aesthetically at some point down the road. Well, maybe not the green so much, because it's just kind of a, well, this color, but I also figured out that these types of trees, that is to say maples and birches, happen to have the same real-world climate as barley, which indicates the general type of biome that we are in and suggests that these are trees that could indeed thrive in the biomes that we're in. And so that's why I wanted to use them as the trees that we're going to be seeing in this mechanism. So let's break it down. I wanted something that is going to spin, obviously, and you'll notice it's kind of big because we have a few different distributions of leaves, and I accidentally already triggered this, so some of the leafage here and over here is gone, but you can see that we are at roughly the correct height for the orange and the green on this one, as well as the red. It's a little bit tall for red, but we'll still be shaving a little bit off the top as we get around to it. And then if we come all the way up, you can see that we still have some with the orange and with the silver birch leaves. Now this is not at all statistically rigorous, but I just planted a few trees and I said, hey, how do the leaf patterns seem to be generating? And that was good enough. And now the trick to this mechanism is that this is a windmill bearing. We are not powering this, we are using the contraption to spin itself. And better yet, this also generates SU. Now, I'm not going to activate this one because I don't have any filters set up, and that means that when it started getting the leaves, it immediately started placing the leaves, and that was undesired behavior. Let's break down the mechanism itself. Moving over to the clean version over here, you can see that we have the saw blades on the bottom at the same level as the windmill bearing. Then we come up. In the center, we have a radial chassis going all the way up, and that means that we don't need to glue any of this together because it's considered one entity, but then we put some super glue on the sides, so I think we've got some super glue here and on the other side, here and on the other side, as well as these 2 faces here with the linear chassis, and that means that these item vaults and these stairs are all just directly connected to the main radial chassis. But if we come out, actually, let me just grab some super glue real quick. So if we take a look at our super glue, we have glued these item vaults up to the andesite casing, the mechanical saws, and these copycat panels, which we have behind. Now the copycat panels are, of course, filled with different shades of wool, and that is what is actually turning this windmill contraption. And then we've just got some framed stairs for decoration that's also filled up with wool, meant to simulate sort of a metallic kind of support thing, kind of like what we did with the fan in the foundry. Off of that, we have the deployers, which are going to eventually be filled with schematics. And I know what you're thinking, that's a little bit odd, but I recently found out that if you put a schematic into a deployer, as long as it's been positioned in the world first, then it will place blocks in its inventory that correspond to the schematic on the ground. And so that's what we'll eventually be doing. But then moving right on up, of course, we have mechanical harvesters, and in this version we have more copycat panels. I eventually replaced the wool with some other blocks that I thought looked better, because it turns out this version is really fast, and we're going to demonstrate that shortly. But the thing about mechanical harvesters is that they have to be placed against something, and so the copycat blocks served a dual purpose of, hey, I can use these to build out behind it and then place on, as well as initially it was meant to be for some additional SU generation, which we really don't need, but you'll see that in a second. And of course we did the same thing with the layer up here, and it's also easier to see that we have the super glue on this face of the radio chassis, and on the opposite one it's a little bit more difficult down here because these are closer to full blocks, but that just demonstrates the point that I'm trying to make with the create contraption. Now let's go ahead and toggle this on real quick, and this is ridiculously fast. I don't know how fast, because I haven't hooked a speedometer up to it yet, but you can see that I'm just keeping ahead of the blades. So I'm just going to go ahead and... right. I stopped it in the exact position that I don't want to be in. So let's just teleport up into the air here, and... that was very silly. Let's move on to the next iteration of the contraption, closer to the final iteration of the contraption, where we have the copycat panels. We've replaced this with steel scaffolding from Immersive Engineering, just because this looks like a proper support block, and that means that we've lost the 4 panels up here, and that means it is much slower. And that's a good thing, because we don't want this spinning wicked fast in the overworld. That could be performance heavy, that could also impact the tree growth, potentially. It's not likely, but that could be the case. And let me just toggle this on real quick, because we do want this for a demonstration. So this is a decent speed. I think it's about 2 RPM, if I've done the maths right. You can see we've got the portable storage interface on the end here. So theoretically what will happen is these vaults will fill up with the items from the tree harvesting, and then, you know, we'll just periodically connect up to the thing and spit them out. Underneath, and this is the real trick, we are harvesting the rotation from our windmill bearing and using it to power the rest of this stuff. So let's just come over here real quick. We've got 1024 stress units. We don't actually need stress units because all we're doing is turning some belts, but that brings us to the next part of the whole thing, botany pots. I'm planning on moving all of my saplings that I currently have, with the exception of the ones mentioned over here, into these botany pots. And then, if we come and kind of just sort of look through the catwalks that we've got here, we've got belts that go under these smart chutes, and I don't know if this is just because of the version of Create we're in or what, but I have confirmed that you can put items on these belts and they will still go through just fine, despite being under these smart chutes and these bridges. Or, yes, these bridges. They don't, like, block off. I think if I put a solid block here at the end of this belt, then I would start to get things backing up. So maybe that's how old Create worked too. Either way, this is just more aesthetically pleasing than just having a whole bunch of belts out in the open. The idea is, if you recall from the video 2 episodes back, I think we had 48 ender chests, and that means we want 48... Oh, I have made an error, and I just realized it. So the thing is, we have 48 pots here, because I expected... Or we have 44 pots here, because I expected, you know, we have the 4 trees here, and then 48 minus 4 is 44. So, therefore, we have 44 pots here in which to grow other trees, but the fatal flaw that I've made is that some of the wood types overlap. So, we've got 3 different types of maple trees, all of which resolve to the same maple block. So really, I think I might end up needing to add another belt. Oh, but I can't add another belt here. I might have to do it over here? Yeah, so that's something I have to think about. We might add another belt in this vicinity to add just 3 more tree types, so that we can have 48 distinct log types in this schematic. Yeah, Yeah, that's probably something I'm going to have to do. But let's also talk about something that I'm doing over here. So when this connects up, the big concern is that because we're going to be using schematics as our filters to place the trees in place, if my theory works out, and it should, but just in case, we don't want this to empty its full stock every time. Otherwise, I think we're going to get a potential diminishing returns type thing, where between the leaves and the saplings, we don't get enough saplings to sustain placing down more saplings, and then this farm eventually dries up, and that would be a bad thing. So, what I've done here is we have one smart funnel, or one brass funnel, I should say, where we have is not tagged Minecraft saplings, and that just permits every item that's not a sapling, which is to say logs and sticks and all that kind of stuff, oh, and the leaves, of course, to come through here into this tunnel, which is here for purely decorative purposes, and then just shuffle on through to the storage. However, we also don't want there to be a surplus of saplings down the road, because that would just back up the system, and that would be bad in a different way. So what I've done here that should theoretically allow us to retain enough of a buffer is this. We have allow saplings, and if I take this out, oh, we don't even need to do that. You can see that I've set it to only output saplings when there's a stack of 64. So theoretically, as this thing operates, we will see full stacks of saplings pop out when there's enough buffer for that to happen. And then otherwise it's just going to keep placing the saplings with the deployers that are going to be filtered on schematics. So then it comes along down through here and over this way, and this initial loop here is actually what gave me the idea to put my botany pots outside instead of trying to do some shenanigans with the storage drawers, or functional storage, I should say, and just hiding them behind everything else. Anyway, so that should be theoretically a decent enough overview of how all this works. I'm going to stop this real quick for a second. Now we move on to this last part. Now the thing is, I have an instance where I have added WorldEdit, and if all goes well, we're going to switch over to that. But whenever I tried to load this specific world in the WorldEdit version, it didn't go well. TLDR, we popped into the original version of TNP Limitless 7 without that mod, and that's how we're here. But what I want WorldEdit for is let us go ahead and place down at first game rule random tick speed 0. We don't want any of these saplings to start growing. So we have oak saplings in here just to give us an idea where this is going to place everything over there. And theoretically, I don't know if we're going to get saplings outside of the blade range. If that does become an issue, then I will alter the schematic in the future. But for now, I'm planning on just hitting this windmill bearing, allowing it to place all of the saplings that it can in this radius, and then we'll take a schematic of that after we fill in the ones that are broken by the copycat panels coming back into place. We will take that schematic of the grove of trees into the WorldEdit version, where I will probably just have a fresh world or something like that. And then, once we've run the appropriate WorldEdit commands over there, we will be able to take the schematic from that and then use it as our schematic filter for all of our deployers. So let's go ahead and get this circle a-whirlin'. Oh, that is satisfying and also kind of freaky. And we really didn't need to fill up both sides. Ah, yes, that's one thing that I didn't talk about. So I know what you're thinking. If we have rotational symmetry, and we do, why do we need the rotational symmetry? And the answer is we don't. This thing, as it spins, yes, we could make do with one set of deployers, but this is going to harvest just a little bit faster because, you know, if a tree grows up in front of one set of blades, then it's immediately going to be dealt with, as opposed to needing to wait for this thing to come all the way around. But the real reason that I did it is because If you put everything on the same side, then from a pure realism standpoint, you're going to be kinda weighted to one side. You're going to be torquing this out of the ground. And just, I figured putting this in for balance makes it look better too, slightly. I mean, this isn't the most aesthetic thing that I've built. It's meant to be functional, but also keep in mind that this is going to be surrounded by just a grove of trees, probably the birch, I think. I mean, I might use a mix, I'm not entirely sure, but it's going to be mostly the birch, I think. And so that's going to be fairly obscured, and then this is going to be just a little bit more visible, and then we're going to have the build focal point right here, and we're going to be building that out mostly in survival. So, at the very least, we're going to be building out the storage first in survival, and then I might come through in the creative test world, and then build out something, and then we'll schematic cannon it again. But that is the plan for that. So now that we've done this, let's go ahead and get rid of our contraption entirely. So here we have the rough circle of saplings that is going to be generated by create. As you can see, the edges are kind of more, well, just octagonal. That's a little bit disappointing, but I'll deal with it. And so, now all we need to do is take a schematic, and I come over here, and I come over here, and then if I just break these blocks, all that we should have are the saplings. That's the wrong schematic. There we go. So if I right-click now, we should be able to do oak, sapling, circle. And then with any luck, if I've done this correctly, the next thing that we'll see is the WorldEdit creative instance where I'm going to do some generation commands. And if it doesn't work correctly, then I might get like a fresh instance of Limitless 7, or I might just make a minimal instance of modded Minecraft with just the mods that I need in order to make the schematic work. But I'll catch you after the scene break. Okay, so we are in a very, very minimal modded instance where we don't have that many mods. I've only added create and regions unexplored and WorldEdit and the dependency mods, and that's it. Because I couldn't get TNP Limitless 7 working with WorldEdit, it would just freeze every time I tried to open a single player world. So we are here with just the items that we need, that is to say the 4 types of saplings from regions unexplored, and a schematic table, which I'm going to put down now, and then an empty schematic, and I've obviously transferred our oak sapling circle NBT data into this instance, so we can go ahead and just click that. And this is a very niche thing that I'm doing. Like, you're not usually going to have to do what I'm doing, much less go to such lengths. So the first thing that we need to do is plop this in here, and that should be correct. Oh, I didn't, okay. We also need to check which direction we're facing. Actually, maybe we don't. I should be looking south now, yes, and that means that this corner, yeah, okay, everything is fine, because I think create preserves directionality with these schematics, so we can go ahead and print that where it is. Oh, that's less than optimal. For some reason, it also carried over the stack of items that was dropped there. But that shouldn't end up mattering. So the next thing that we want to do is we also want to get some andesite casing, and the reason for that is we are going to use that as our 2 points. But the next thing we're going to do is wand. And now we have the WorldEdit wand. Again, this is a custom instance. I don't know if I can help you add WorldEdit to TNP Limitless 7, given the performance issues that I had with that. But we have now selected the 2 coordinates. And now I should, if I've remembered to do this, paste in a command. And let's just go over real quick. So we're replacing all Minecraft oak saplings with 25% maple sapling, 25% red maple sapling, 25% orange maple sapling, and 25% silver birch sapling. So if I've done this correct, and I already see an issue, let's get rid of that tailing 25% there, we should be able to hit enter, and boop. Aha, look at that, random saplings. And I don't know exactly what the implementation of this is. I was very tempted to write up my own Python script that would be able to do this sort of thing for me. I mean, not this exact sort of thing, because, I mean, I wouldn't be able to integrate it into Minecraft without significant work, but I was just thinking I could write up a program to generate which sapling needs to go in which spot, and that would also give me an exact 25% of each. But this is pretty good. This is a decent distribution it's looking like. So all I have to do is come back in here, get rid of the wand. We need another schematic. And here we go. So this is going to serve as our random distribution of saplings. And if I just go like this, that should be fine. All I need to do is get rid of this and get rid of this. And then we can go ahead and name this random sapling distro. And that should do it for now. So the next time we meet, we should be in the overworld, where I'm going to have gathered all the components for this stuff. We'll probably skip over the time-lapse this time because it's not a very exciting one, but once everything's kind of set up and in the positions that I think I want it to be, then we will go ahead and position this schematic that we just took and make a whole bunch of copies of this. Now, after that previous clip, we are back on the server, and if we just turn around real quick, we can see that we are slightly downriver, upriver? I haven't determined direction of flow just yet. So the point is, we are a little away from the sawmill, and this is actually a little bit closer than I'd intended to start building it, because when I positioned the schematic on my laptop, I think it's got a lower render distance, so I didn't realize that this would be almost still next door on the desktop, but this is fine. Again, we are going to be putting this, the build area, we're going to surround it with some more of the trees that we're using, that is to say a combination of the modded birch and maple trees, and I think it's going to disguise this facility just a little bit better. We are also probably going to put in some builds just to make it look like a proper logging operation, like, I don't know what that would necessarily look like, potentially like a carriage with some logs out the back or something like that, and then maybe we'll add like just another crane that can lower logs into the river over here. I should probably step out of the barley rather than jumping. Anyway, so we have built this here initially, and this is our storage facility, which is going to be disguised in something a little bit more aesthetic than just being like a Stonehenge of storage in the middle of nowhere. But we have our storage controller, we have a whole bunch of different drawers. You can see that we've got the 48 ender drawers that we're going to need to connect up to the ones in the sawmill itself, and I've started putting in some of the different wood types we are expecting to use in this next part. And I'm definitely not going to fill everything in on camera because that would take way too much time, but you can see just organizationally, we have the vanilla Minecraft stuff sort of wrapping around on the bottom here, and we've got spaces for the two different types of blocks from the nether that you basically grow like a tree. I mean, I realize they're mushrooms, but they're tree-ish. They can still be stripped like that. The other thing of note is that azaleas in this pack, they have logs, but if I were to look at the azalea, you can see in the Botany pot section, they only drop oak logs. That is because the mod that adds this recipe, which... there we are, Botany trees. I don't think knows about Ecologic's azalea woods, so that may be something that on the server I just write a cube.js recipe change or something like that, and then just add that to the crops instead, because it'd be really nice for azaleas to make either the azalea log or the flowering azalea log, and I think depending upon whether we're using azalea or flowering azalea, we decide which type of log to drop, and then potentially I might have to try and find a quark azalea too, because how do we get quark azalea wood? Oh, strictly from a process that we can't do right now. So never mind, that's back off the table. So like I said, we've got the Minecraft woods, and then I started just going alphabetically by mod type. So we've got the Ars Nouveau woods. In here, we're going to have some stuff from, I believe it's Ether and Blue Skies. And then up here, we've got some Capona. The walnut is the only wood that Capona has that also can be stripped, so that's why that's the only one here. And you can see that we've also got some stuff where we are basically padding in enough space for trees that also have crops like cinnamon or jungle saplings with the cocoa, etc, etc. And eventually this will all be filled in, eventually this will all be linked up, and we'll have a demonstration of doing that. But for now, let's get on to the more interesting part, a very short time lapse. I've changed my mind, but we're going to do something just a little bit different. Now, I've already placed the schematic in the correct area. We are using, for printer settings, replace solid with any, I believe, not empty, any. And we are also skipping missing blocks as well as protecting entities. We don't have any in the zone, I don't think. Actually, let me just toggle that off because we shouldn't have any in the zone, and if my checklist is wrong, then we might accidentally have something there. Okay, so the good thing is the netherite trapdoors are purely aesthetic, and unfortunately they are harder to get because you actually need the debris scrap as opposed to the netherite ingot. And the only thing that we have automated right now is netherite ingots. And so that means that we've actually skipped the part of the process that we need to make the trapdoors, which is kind of sad. But then we also have the dirt, which was just a placeholder, and the iron bridges, which are in my inventory because, well, they don't preserve state, as we saw with the nether portal. So I'm just going to fire this up, and then we may potentially have to throw in a gearbox because I realized that I oriented the test world in a west-east direction as opposed to a north-south direction, and so some of the rotation might change, but that is fixed by one single gearbox. Anyway, enough yammering, let's get on with this really quick time-lapse. So, now that that's all been filled in, let's go ahead and make sure that the direction is the correct way, because we did rotate 90 degrees. And small mercies, it is in fact spinning in the direction that we want. Let's also take a look, and we do have the number, or the stack number, set to what we want it to as well. We can see that this is set to saplings, or not saplings, I should say. This is set to saplings, and so hopefully that'll work. We are going to test that out real quick, just as soon as I've configured everything else. Now, the one curious thing is that my checklist called for 4 of these filters, and I distinctly only remember using the 2, so I'm hoping there are some extras in this barrel over here, but if not, whatever. I need to go ahead and put in the scaffolding, and I'm not going to do all of this on camera, I'm just going to illustrate how that works. So we're just going to put one here, and then if I just right-click, you can see that it kind of just extends across, which is really nice, and we can do the same here, going down this direction, and we're going to stop at the last row because I don't think we put any stairs here, correct? And then I should, yes, should just be able to, from the middle, place in everything on the way out. And actually, this is fast enough that I think I will do it on camera. And the very last thing that I need to do before we can test this is, A, we need to put some of the target saplings into the contraption. That's why I have this high throughput hopper. But I also need to get a whole bunch of schematics and make sure they are all set to the sapling distribution that I want. So I'm going to go ahead and do that because I need to move the schematic over into the FreeCam instance of TNP Limitless 7. And I need to make 14 of them at that. So that's going to take a while. I'm going to pop back after I've done that, and hopefully this first test is just going to work. Oh, of course. Yes. Okay, so I've just had a bit of an interesting learning moment here. After I placed in the schematic for the deployer to use as the filter, I kind of forgot that, yeah, I kind of forgot that it doesn't actually consume the item that's used as the filter. So I made 14 schematics for no reason. I only needed to make the one. So now I've positioned this in the correct place. I also forgot to rotate this initially. So we had some trees that were just right up against this area and theoretically were unreachable. But now I've gone ahead and put that in as our filter. So we should be able to just go along the sides like this. And while I'm thinking about it, we'll also turn off the chunk boundary because we don't need it anymore. But you can see that we've got our schematic of trees just sort of here. And what I'm learning is that I probably want to try to put in one of those carpety things for the wandering traders, because obviously they're spawning over here, and I kind of don't want them to. So we'll keep this out just in case we still need it. Let's go ahead and inject the saplings that we're going to need. I need to get the saplings from the storage because I don't have all of them here. Now we're starting with a limited quantity, so at first it's not going to fill the entire circle, but what we're going to do to speed things up just a little bit and also test that the schematic gets replaced again and again and again, is that we are going to bone meal, probably one of the first ones that shows up. Yep, there we go. The vault now theoretically has, yes, it has our items in it, so we can go ahead and put that there and start the windmill. Oh, that's nice. Okay, and I'm just going to start with this maple one immediately so that we can see if it's going to work out the way I think it's going to work out. Okay, we got some of the leaves. We should be getting some saplings out of this. And it should replace. I think it did. Yes, I think we are good. And so now the only thing to test, well, let me do it for some of the other trees too, just because I want to see if we can get more stuff. And I also want to test some of these edge cases where we're right on the edge of the saw. And theoretically, if everything is fine, we shouldn't be getting saplings out of this just yet. We should be getting just leaves and logs, which seems like it has worked, I think. Okay, I think it's offloaded everything that it could, and if I come back in here, we should see that we don't have any saplings, or any saplings for these particular wood types, but we should... Oh, I haven't linked up the thing yet. That is another thing that we have to do. We have to link the drawers together. I did forget about that. So we get our linking tool out, and I switch this to single add. Oh, no. Switch to single add, and right-click this, and now everything should start going in, please. Yes, it is. And we'll swap back to multiple. We don't actually need this right now, but we will need it when we are going to link some of this stuff. And now let's just wait for that all to filter in. And I think we're good. I think we're good. Let me just turn around to make sure. It looks like nothing has done anything there. Yeah, so rain aside, I think that has just worked out the way it's supposed to. All of these appear to be working like they're supposed to. Yep, we're still getting leaves and wood, and I'm not seeing any saplings. We've got our first apple. I didn't know they could make apples. So we'll just let that run. Let me go ahead and enable these chunks. I think, what is it, shift? Left click? Yep, they are force loaded, so that will continue to process. Let's go ahead and link one of these. I've already done a test just to make sure that it actually works. And unfortunately, one property that I've learned about ender drawers is that they do not lock. Oh, right, and I need to re-add these because I took them out because I was modifying things. And let me just double check that we don't have any holes in here besides the ones we want in here. Yep, nope, I think we're good. So we want to link the spruce log. And I'm not going to do all of these in this episode because that would just be gross. But let's go ahead and store the frequency. And because we have the same number of log types across both things, I mean, obviously that was the intended design, but because we have the same number of log types, and we also have the same multiple, we have the same factors of 48, here we go, yes, then we can just go along in sort of a line and unfurl the circle that we have there, and I believe the command is shift right click? Yes, and we have now changed the drawer frequency so we have spruce logs in this spot. And like I said, unfortunately you can't lock ender drawers, so that means if I were to take the spruce out right now, then it would just be empty until we got another spruce. Oh wow, green is actually probably the closest one right now, so I think I'll boost it. Oh no, orange. Orange is the closest by far. So actually it might even trigger... Now that I've stopped watching it. That's kind of crazy. We can see that there's a whole bunch of stuff on the ground, so I almost kind of wonder if I want to make something to pick that up and put it in here, maybe? Because what that should do is have the effect of feeding things back into here if it's being fed into the interface, if I'm understanding how the portable storage interface works correctly. And so that way we at least waste less. I mean, this stuff will all despawn because it is in loaded chunks or something like that, and we don't produce it nearly as fast, but that's whatever. Right now, what I'm hoping is that as we come around, we should be able to see that, yes, we are at 74. I think this may be our first stack of trees to move on to the next stage. Potentially. Come on, sapling, don't fail me now. And at this point, it also looks like the circle is entirely full. Come on. Yes! Yes, it works! Yes! Alright. So let's just follow that down into the system here. And it might even be... Oh, no, yeah, because we put the tunnel there. Yes, and there are our saplings! Perfect! Haha, I didn't know that that was going to work, but I assumed it did based upon, well, logical extrapolation, really. And... right now, that should have gone in here. And please don't tell... Wait, what? Wait, what? Oh, what? Hold on. What? Oh, right. Okay, yes. So this is a case of we haven't filled up everything else yet, and because we haven't locked the other drawers, I'm thinking it's just arbitrarily picking a different order to go in. So we are going to have to potentially reorganize some of this stuff, and that's a little bit unfortunate. Oh no, we've also filled up. Okay, so I really need to get a void upgrade in here, and also a few storage upgrades, but that can wait until next time. We've at the very least confirmed that the system does what it wants to, or what I want it to, I should say. Now, one other thing that I noticed is, unfortunately, I made the same mistake that I did in old series, and that is... What? Yes, so in the old series, I made the mistake of botany pots thinking that they had some kind of internal inventory, and they don't. And so that means I need to replace all of these probably with hopper botany pots at a minimum, and then pray that they don't accidentally insert things themselves. Otherwise, I'm going to have to go one layer higher and put some kind of storage in between here and the pots themselves, which is going to start looking very strange, but we'll deal with that when I have to deal with that. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to like, subscribe, and click that bell to be notified, and as always, I'm looking forward to your feedback in the comments below. And with that, I will catch you on the flip side. Thanks for watching, everybody! In the upper left is the next video in the series, or a video you might like. In the lower left is the series playlist, and on the right is my icon, by which you can subscribe. Thanks again for watching!